Big stars are leaving their European clubs. Who will land in Major League Soccer? More Club World Cup grifting. Plus, we review the biggest and best moments from a wild second round of US Open Cup. That and more on Friday's Morning Kick Around. The caw of David Peckham means you've made it to the show. This is Morning Kick Around, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's favorite country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Like I said, David Peckham crowed us in. It is Friday, so we got that wind beneath our wings a little bit. How are you feeling yourself, Mr. Davis?
It's been a roller coaster of a week, hasn't it, Mr. Kerr? It's been an up and down kind of topsy-turvy world, but we always have the football. And we've got good and bad today. We've got some things to celebrate. Big news, potentially, for 2031. We've got the U.S. Open Cup to celebrate. Elliot Barr is going to come back and give us his top 5 moments from the second round. I'm super excited about that. Lots of visual aids today, lots of reliving what was absolutely crazy in the Open Cup. But yeah, there's other stuff too. But we're here. It's Friday.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going, both personal stuff and there's a couple current events going on in the news as well. But I feel like Wednesday Open Cup was very therapeutic. I leaned into the entertainment, definitely some good escapism on the television and the YouTubes on Wednesday. And we'll get into that, as you said. If you haven't hit subscribe already, do so now. Morning Kick Around on YouTube.com. We are working towards, 5,000 subscribers? We passed 1776, the most patriotic of subscriber numbers during the show on Wednesday, so that was fun. And once you subscribe, tell your people to do the same. Help grow this show and take it to the limit. You can also hit the thanks button on the YouTube now to even donate some fundage. So if you don't want to give us a coffee and you want to buy us a pizza instead, you can do that on the YouTube. Follow along on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And we had a nice note come in on the email. If you want to write us a note, you can do so, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And we got a really a good reply to my, I'd say, ignorant slander of the commute between Iowa and Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
A wonderful viewer, Ken, said, Robert, please do not judge the I-80 drive from Omaha to Des Moines if you haven't had the joy of cruising through the hills of western Iowa. Having driven through every state in the union, I can assure you each has a unique beauty. He threw in a little jibe to you. Even Virginia, says Ken, has.
Virginia's amazing. I mean, I'm not. Here's the thing. My connection to Virginia, I've been here for a very long time, but I don't always think of myself as Virginian. So I'm not going to stand up and defend Virginia. But Virginia does have some beautiful places. Absolutely.
And in one more place to contact, coffee.com/morningkickaround. You can donate one time or regular contribution, and there is bonus segments over there if you would like to subscribe, and you get a little bit more.
I prefer bone in to boneless myself. So I like bone in segments, not boneless segments. Those aren't real segments. The boneless segments, that's not. Come on, people saying that those are real. That's not what you want.
It depends on your commitment level, Jason. But I think all that said, do all the things, but let's get into it. Long balls here on Friday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Let's go.
Let's go.
Long ball number 1 on Friday, April 4th. Can you believe it? I'm Robert. He's Jason. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are going to start off with long ball number 1. There are a number of big European stars reaching the end of their contracts who might come to the shores of Major League Soccer. The big note of the day, Manchester City's one-time superstar, Now, aging a little bit, Kevin De Bruyne announces what has been speculated for a while that he is moving along from Manchester City. Do you think this is likely to pan out? There's been a lot of San Diego links. Do you think Kevin De Bruyne comes from City to America?
Yes, I think it's very likely that Kevin De Bruyne plays at least one season in Major League Soccer. I would also add that there's been a lot of rumblings in New York that NYCFC has some roster flexibility. And while I don't know that Kevin De Bruyne covets the idea of playing soccer on a baseball field, he does have an obvious, easy path from one City Football Group property to another City Football Group property. So again, I don't know that's definite, but I have seen with this announcement that De Bruyne is going to leave City in the summer, I have seen plenty of NYCFC related kind of accounts and people and blogs suggesting that maybe this is what NYCFC is sort of lining themselves up for. I do think there's a reasonable question to be asked if that's a good idea for NYCFC. I love Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne at his peak was incredible. Absolutely incredible. Maybe my favorite player on the planet for a season or two. But there's been a pretty steep decline. I mean, I'm not going to say he's a worthless player anymore, but if he doesn't come here committed, if he doesn't like the environment, if it's uncomfortable playing shortstop at Yankee Stadium or what's the other one? City Field, whatever, if he doesn't like, maybe San Diego is more to his liking, maybe, but then again, San Diego, that beach lifestyle, that'll get into your bones, and the next thing you know, you'd rather sit on the beach and enjoy the waves than go to training. So I don't know, I hate I'm not trying to denigrate Kevin De Bruyne. I just wonder if he's really committed to the idea of trying to play soccer for another season as hard as he can.
There's been a quote floating around for a while that, has been included in these links quite a bit that De Bruyne is saying, I played hundreds of games. I've been a professional for like 15 years, like kind of like this sort of quote you'd hear from someone that is burned out at their job. Like, I've just been doing this a long time, man. Like, give me a little bit of slack. So maybe just a change of scenery might bring back some form, maybe some rest. Some people have speculated maybe there's some underlying injury issue is why his playing time and his contributions have gone down. But maybe, yeah, like you said, the beaches of San Diego, California, compared to the less sunny beaches of Manchester might reinvigorate his spirit. He might find that love again. But I do want to kind of pose this as a question, though. There's also some rumblings about Thomas Muller, the German and Bayern Munich, legend. I don't know if it, becomes more legendary than him at in world football. He is reportedly letting his contract run out as well. It doesn't seem like he's going to sign an extension at Bayern. Who was more likely to join Major League Soccer? Or maybe a better question, who would you rather see? Who might be a better fit for the American top division?
I mean, I'm partial to De Bruyne over Muller, but Muller's had an incredible career. Muller, 35, he'll be 36 in September. Right, that's creeping up. Kevin De Bruyne, a couple years younger than Thomas Muller, if I'm not mistaken. Which, maybe isn't everything. It's about miles, and I think for the last couple seasons in Germany, Muller has been more of a spot player, a substitute. That he's been a player required to put in tons of minutes for the German Giants. So maybe he's fresher now. I don't know. That's such an odd thing to kind of consider. I think it's likely both of them end up in Major League Soccer. I can't tell you definitely destinations for them. Again, the City Football Group connection for De Bruyne, for Thomas Muller. I mean, depending on what the number is, right? If you have to pay him $5 million, don't do it. Don't pay 36-year-old Thomas Muller $5 million to play in Major League Soccer. But if he's willing to come here on a high TAM deal or something just to experience it, just to play in MLS, hey, yeah, maybe you make a run at Thomas Muller.
Keep you on your toes a little bit. Here's a quick fire question to round out this topic of the speculated leagues for late career big money moves. You'd say that the top three of this would be Major League Soccer, the Saudi Pro League, and probably still Turkey. Where does Major League Soccer rank in that triad of these sort of leagues for these set of moves?
Well, I think if money wise, no one can compete with Saudi Arabia. That's an obvious thing. Passion-wise, nobody's competing with Turkey, although there are only a couple of clubs that are really options for players like Mueller and De Bruyne if they were going to go to Turkey. But lifestyle-wise, for a couple of European guys, it's the United States. It's Major League Soccer. I mean, there's really there's really no question about that, right? I think it depends on what matters most to these guys. You want to go cash the biggest check? Go play in Saudi Arabia. You want to play in front of the most intense fans with the smoke and the fire and the passion and potentially
the army guards,
and whatever it is. Go to Turkey you'll have access to the Champions League still if you go play in Turkey and the European competitions if that's something you covered at this point in your career. Although both these guys have won pretty much everything there is to win, but Major League Soccer is going to be that best lifestyle. Some of these players do love the idea of being able to walk down the street, go to the grocery store, do normal person things, and you can do that in America.
Long ball number 2 here for Friday. Some more Club World Cup hijinks. Reporting from Yahoo's Harry Bushnell. I just wanted to read this part of his headline because it's telling. FIFA launches desperate, deceptive ploy to sell Club World Cup tickets, dangling 2026 World Cup tickets in there as well. I feel like almost every news story connected to the Club World Cup and FIFA's, trying to prop it up between the strange TV deal and how they're awarding places in the tournament. This is just kind of another addition to the kind of grift that the Club World Cup is seemingly becoming. So there's 2 different ticket packages that seem good on their face, but are kind of loaded here. The first one, Henry surmises the fan must pay a 3-figure sum for Club World Cup tickets. Next, they mustn't resell the tickets, but actually must use them, meaning that their family member or them must go to the game, and then months later will be offered a chance for a likely 3-figure sum for a 2026 World Cup ticket that may or may not be in a good location, and that may or may not be in the city from your original Club World Cup purchase. And then they even go a step further with a second offering called the Super Ticket Pack, where the buyer of a Super Ticket Pack must purchase and use and attend 20 tickets, and then on 20 different days, even though that there's only 22 Club World Cup match days, so seemingly making it impossible to then qualify for the World Cup tickets. So more grift here from FIFA.
Yeah, well, we know this is a money grab. This always has been, but it seems pretty clear that they're struggling to sell tickets at the level that they want for the Club World Cup. So here's an inducement. Hey, buy Club World Cup tickets and you get access to the World Cup coming to the United States in 2026. But again, Henry's done the necessary work of reading the fine print. Good on Henry for doing that. And again, the element in here that says you have access to 1 World Cup ticket. If you buy the regular pack, the standard pack, you get access to 1 World Cup ticket, probably in the upper deck, probably not in a city that you're close to, and not even you don't even get to pick the game. FIFA gets to pick the game that you would have access to a ticket for the World Cup. And then with this super pack, the 20 tickets to the Club World Cup. And really, who's got that kind of money lying around? I mean,
in this economy?
Right now, you can't even cash out your retirement fund to pay for it because you're taking a massive hit on all of that stuff. But yeah, man, this is so baldly money grab territory that it just makes you sick to see it. And I want to believe the Club World Cup can deliver quality soccer and a fun environment, and the tournament as an idea, sort of an abstract, is fun to ponder. But FIFA keeps dropping stuff like this. It's like everything good that FIFA touches. And obviously this is the expanded Club World Cup, and we talked about the players kind of being pushed to the edge of what they can do, and the number of games they're being asked to play. You could argue that this shouldn't happen because of that reason. But if you're just a fan who maybe puts that to the side, the Club World Cup sounds like a fun idea. And then obviously the World Cup is the biggest sporting event on the planet every 4 years. We love it. It's why a lot of us are fans of this game and fans of soccer in America in particular, because of the World Cup. And we want to see our team the men's team win a World Cup one day, it's like everything FIFA. It's like you ever see those videos like when a tanker crashes and spills oil, and then people go and they start cleaning the birds who are drenched in oil.
Yeah.
That's what it's like with FIFA and everything. It's like everything is drenched in this goop and grime and oil that just makes you like, it's like even if something good is underneath, you've got to get through all this yuckiness before you can get there.
Yeah, we got to bring our down dish detergent and kind of rub down those fallen sludge-covered animals. But so kind of review of kind of the grift of this. There's the player load management concerns. There's the awarding of the places, which has been arbitrary at best. There's the trying to sell the tickets, and there's the broadcast deal, which kind of seems like it's a Saudi propped up thing. Like there's a lot of different elements to this which are not necessarily the most above board, but does that kind of make it like more compelling in a way?
I don't know. I mean,
Or again, we're having a little bit of a laugh because it's like crassly corrupt and a money grab, but entertaining in a way. And I have heard people frame it. We also added to the list is the made up play-in game that's being proposed that we talked about earlier in the week, which there's a headline, and I've heard it kind of categorized as this, like, while controversial, it could be the most biggest windfall of an American soccer game. Would you categorize that as that?
I mean, I said that it would be the biggest one-off game between an MLS and Mexican club in history. It would be, because there's some stakes involved. Both of those teams, in this case LAFC and Club America, would covet the opportunity to play in a Club World Cup that's got famous European and South American clubs in it. They want to be part of it, right? So again, it's like this thing covered in grime. There's something good underneath there, but I have to get through the yuckiness, as you said, the sort of crass capitalist exploitative thing that FIFA does in order to get to it. And I don't love having to reconcile these things. Like, I don't, as a soccer fan, I don't want to have to worry about whether or not the people running the tournaments are just trying to milk everybody for as many dollars as they can, or cozying up to various authoritarian regimes around the world in order to benefit their bottom line. I don't want to have to think about that. I just want to enjoy the soccer.
Yeah, Johnny's been really busy with, visiting dictators, making deals, announcing, major tournaments without any real public discussion. Just like, oh, this is a thing and it's happening.
And here I'm going to bring in JB. You think they kicked Club Leon out on purpose to have a playing game for money? I mean, I don't know that he's saying he believes that, or JB says they believe that. But it's not out of the realm of possible. I mean, it's possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility that FIFA is like, well, we have an excuse to kick Club Leon out because of the Grupo Pachuca situation and multi-club ownership. Even though, again, multi-club ownership is the way of the world now. But
Major League Soccer has many clubs under one ownership, right?
I mean, technically speaking, single entity. If you want to be specific about that, I mean, it has come up in our videos when we talked about the one-off game and the idea and Grupo Pachuca and Club Leon and all that. Like, why is an MLS subject to the same thing? If technically speaking, there is no individual club ownership in Major League Soccer, and it's a reasonable question to ask. FIFA will apply the rules in an arbitrary way, the way that they decide. And I can't say, it seems almost conspiratorial to think that Club Leon was kicked out so FIFA could have a one-off game to generate more interest, generate more money, do something big ahead of a Club World Cup, where obviously they're having trouble selling tickets because they're packaging now World Cup games next year. And again, that super package with the 20 games, which, by the way, I do believe Andy is asking, 20 matches on 20 different days. I do think that that's the ask here, or that's you're buying 20 tickets and you're going to have to use them on 20 different days and figure out how to do that. And your reward is access to a single ticket for a World Cup final in 2026, access to a single ticket, probably in the nosebleeds, that you still have to pay for, right? It's not like you're getting it for free. I buy 20 Club World Cup tickets and I get a ticket to the World Cup final. No, you still have to pay. It's just the right to access it because there's going to be a lottery and there's going to be demand.
You think people will have to divest their entire 401k in order to attend these things?
I mean, I don't know. Sell all your stock, but again, you're not doing so hot with that right now.
Moving on to long ball number 3 here for Friday, April 4th. Johnny's back. Johnny Infantino back in the news for our third headline here today. The Women's World Cup 2031 and 2035 have been awarded in the FIFA Congress in Belgrade. Johnny Infantino made the announcement, which wasn't really publicly discussed as far as I can tell, but United States, the sole bidder for the 2031 edition of the Women's World Cup. So we have the Men's World Cup in 2026, and then interest shouldn't fade as there'll be a continuous build for another World Cup in 2031. How do you feel about all this?
Okay, I'll say that, first of all, just to be specific, this is not awarded yet. This is a fait accompli, but it's not awarded. Basically what it is that USA, Mexico, and I've read that they have talked about with CONCACAF maybe doing some games in Costa Rica and Jamaica to make it more of a CONCACAF event, but of course the United States would carry the largest burden of hosting games. This is a fait accompli because there's no other bidders. So there will be a vote at next year's FIFA Congress, and that will then confirm the United States as the host of the World Cup in 2031. And as you see here on our headline from The Athletic, 2035 will go to the UK. And I believe that's a home nations situation. So England, Wales, Northern Ireland. I don't know about Scotland. I didn't see Scotland mentioned, but there would be a UK World Cup in 2035. And
England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland.
I'm excited for the idea of a Women's World Cup in the United States again. When's the last time we did one? It was
1999, and then in Canada in 2015.
In Canada in 2015, no, but there was one between that because we had the SARS World Cup. Which was the SARS World Cup? The World Cup the United States ended up hosting on short notice because of a SARS outbreak in China. I believe that was the 2003 World Cup, if that's right. Yeah.
Oh man.
The United States hosted the World Cup because we had 99, and that was obviously the big explosion and the final in L.A. and Brandi Chastain and the penalty kick and the sports bra and the most iconic image in American soccer history. Fight me if you disagree. But then we hosted the World Cup again in 2003, but it wasn't one of it. It didn't feel, it was big, don't get me wrong. It's still the World Cup, but that's so long ago now. And with the generation of attention around, and obviously women's soccer on the professional side started a league. We've had leagues fail since then. This is going to be a completely different level. Not only will it be an expanded World Cup from what we've ever hosted before,
190 teams.
Yeah, just to invite everybody. Not only will it be bigger, obviously, it's going to be at a different point in women's soccer history. So I do think, if I don't love the idea of having to compare here. We're expecting 2026 to be a big boost for men's soccer in America, and it very well could be a big boost for men's soccer in America. I do think the national team on the men's side and where they are is going to be a bit of a drain on attention. When it comes, it'll get attention, but it's just there's a lot of things happening politically with our men's national team, et cetera, and so forth, that don't have us a year out all that excited right now, and that's probably wrong. But with the Women's World Cup, and I imagine the U.S. women's national team, when we get to 2031, will still be very much in a position to be a contender. That could be massive. That could be huge. That could be a thing that, again, launches women's soccer into a different stratosphere.
I might be opening a can of worms here, but do you think that we might be here in the bubble of American soccer, be almost taking it for granted that there will be an automatic surge of grassroots attention and participation because of the World Cups? We're assuming that because that happened in the 90s, but the attention is so much more split. There's a whole lot more going on in the world. There's a whole lot more hobbies and activities and pursuits on your telephone that you could do. Like, do you think that we're maybe just assuming that there will be a groundswell, or do you think that no doubt about it?
Okay. It's all relative, right, Robert? Like, it's if you expect it to turn soccer into the top sport in America, no, that's not going to happen, right? It's not going to be a World Cup comes to America 2026, 2031, and then you and I are living in a country where soccer is dominating sports headlines. That ain't happening. We would love for it to. We dream of it, but that's not what it's going to be. But there will be a push forward. There will be more interest, even if a small fraction of kids either come back to soccer or suddenly become more interested in soccer. Even if it elevates casual fans to more ardent fans, that's a win for American soccer, right? Everything is progress. Of course, there is sort of like, oh, this is a letdown because it's not as much progress as we wanted. Oh, TV ratings didn't shoot through the roof, or we didn't suddenly have a league that's spending 20, 30, $50 million on transfers every window. Like maybe that, or the women's game. You know, we didn't get 5 more stadiums built within 5 years, and therefore it's not a success. Like that, it depends on where you put the bar. And I think the bar, it shouldn't be low, but I think that it can be cleared even if it is, you know, a relatively sort of realistic view. I think that's still progress. That's still good.
We got a comment here from Brandon in the chat. If 2026 is going to be a big boost for the men's leagues here, he thinks absolutely NWSL to Caitlin Clark WNBA levels, especially if the women's national team win the tournament. Fair enough comment there. I was also thinking that like having a month of having soccer on the television, just have it almost, because during the World Cup, you know, soccer is mainstream here. It is a big televised product. So just even having that a consistent day-on-day basis where clips, coverage, and discussion is around the game could well do it. Because I do remember in Women's World Cup 1999, I guess maybe I was a little naive or just at the right age, but when the Women's World Cup 1999 was happening, I didn't really think about like it being a separate entity. It's just like, oh, a huge soccer competition that just happened to be women. And so having that on TV every day, it just seemed like women's soccer was, you know, a mainstream thing that was normal. And I just continued my impression of that for quite some time. And so while maybe I'm being a little bit cynical, I think that could, you know, boost just the general appreciation or thought of what soccer is here if there's a 5-year span where there's these month-long competitions where it is mainstream.
That's the baseline. That just, it's here, it's happening, it's going to demand attention from people who wouldn't otherwise normally pay attention to soccer. Like it would be extremely obstinate for mainstream sports outlets, and you know, think about, you know, your Fox, your ESPN, your radio, your television, the debate shows, the things that we think of, major sports influencers. It would be ridiculous and obstinate, and in terms of 2031, almost blatantly sexist if they were just ignoring the tournament happening here. Like it's the biggest women's sporting event on the planet. And we can talk about the WNBA, we can talk about women's college basketball, and those are great things that happen in this country, and those have grown in attention because of superstars like Caitlin Clark and her story. You know, just in that to a place, by the way, where women's sports should be. I do wonder about the amount of oxygen, right? Like you already talked about split attention, like just how much attention is left to give. And I don't mean just for women's sports, but I mean for anything. For another thing, right? So I think I laid out a theory on this show a couple weeks ago where I said it's really tough to imagine in this split attention economy that any sport is going to migrate itself into the mainstream at this point in history, right? At this late stage of where we are with our technology, with our attention, can any sport break in? It's because, you know, we like to do this thing like, where is soccer? Is it a top 5 sport, top 6 sport? You think about MLS specifically. Where does it rank within the NHL, the NBA, baseball, football, all of those things? And I made the argument, like, I don't know, outside of MMA, and really we're talking about one MMA property, I don't know that I can imagine a sport, or I can't think of another sport that has broken in. Like, everything we care about in this country is long-standing, goes back a long time. Now, I know there's, like, a new soccer league. There's the 7-on-7 stuff that happens in the tournament every year. There are sort of these there's the new women's basketball product that I can't remember the name of it. I'm going to butcher it, so I don't want to get it wrong.
Women's hockey.
Women's hockey is sure that's a thing on a lower level. Like, yeah, and JB's mentioning women's hockey, the PWHL. So again, those things are growing. Those things, but it's all relative, right? It's relative from like zero attention to
Yeah.
even a little bit more attention seems like a big jump because percentage-wise it is. Whereas for men's soccer and for soccer in general, breaking into like a group of leagues and competitions and sports that is like always dominating, and that's the NFL, big gap, NBA, bigger gap or some gap, Major League Baseball, another gap, NHL, another gap, maybe Major League Soccer. But then again, MMA and other things are in that conversation now.
Don't forget golf. I mean, golf gets some attention.
Yeah,
right?
there's a team golf league now that Josie Althore's invested in. I saw that on LinkedIn. Anyway, all right, let's move on, Rob.
Interesting times. That is our long balls here for Friday morning. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button on Morning Kick Around on YouTube. Follow along on social media at mkickaround. Write us a note on the email morningkickaround@gmail.com. And if you haven't already done so, please share some pocket change or something bigger at coffee.com/morningkickaround. And those who donate get some bonus content there. So we're going to take a momentary break and come right back with a special guest to talk Open Cup here on Morning Kick Around. Hot topic here on Morning Kick Around for Friday morning. Midweek, we were treated to one of the best midweeks of soccer action I can recall. Open Cup second round brought the heat, brought plenty of excitement, and to discuss his top moments of the second round, we got Mr. Mr. Elliot Barr going by Yogi this morning, co-host from River City 93 podcast, reoccurring guest now. Welcome, Elliot, or should I say Yogi?
Yogi's fine. Elliot's for tax purposes.
All right, that's okay. Government names and all that. Yogi, I think you're our first return guest. Is that right, Robert? Is he
Really?
the first one to do 2 appearances on the show?
I think so.
Oh, look at Black excellence coming through.
I mean, I think that's lovely, and I think it's great that we're going to be talking about Open Cup here, because that second round. I mean, I got your top 5. So I asked Yogi to give me his top 5. I'm going to throw it up on the screen here. This is his top 5 moments from the U.S. Open Cup second round, and we can work through these. I got visual aids for all of this, Yogi, but you tell me, why don't we start with number 1?
All right, so let's start with number 1. I think number 1 brought the collective soccer heart together. El Felito upsetting Monterey Bay. Now, if you remember last year, El Felito, they went on this amazing run through the U.S. Open Cup. This year they came back around, and it looked kind of dicey there for a second. Now, if you fast forward to really the 80th minute mark, El Felito had 4 chances. It is probably the most FIFA goal ever you're going to see. 4 chances inside the box. Deflection, bounces out. Deflection, bounces out. Deflection, bounces out. Deflection. And then they finally score the winner to go advance in the next round against Monterey Bay. So that was something.
Now I don't have Yogi. I do not have the highlights from that one. I do have some other videos that we're going to look at here because again, visual aids help on this show. But what I do got is pictures of burritos because
that's perfect. That's perfect.
I mean,
you can't go wrong with a good burrito.
I grabbed these
don't
straight
tempt
off
me
of
here. I'll leave the show and go get a burrito. Don't tempt me.
So this is what I'm about to tell you, gentlemen. So these are pictures from El Farolito's website, the obviously, or maybe it's their Yelp page for this little restaurant. Counter plays in San Francisco, makes these mission-style burritos that San Francisco is famous for. Your boy's headed out there in about 3 weeks. I'm going to San Francisco, going to Napa Valley, and I gotta get my beautiful wife to allow me a little side trip to go grab a burrito at El Farolito, so I can take a picture also and be like, look at where I'm at. I'm at the joint that backs the team that's making this run, and they get paid too, right, Yogi? There's a number attached to what they've done.
I think so. I think there is a number. I forgot the exact number, but
I think it's 50K. I think it's 50K
okay.
they get.
Yeah, so they're the last team from the, I think, amateur round.
The open division.
Teams. Yeah. Open division, okay. To make it through. So, yeah, 50K. I mean, that's a I mean, look, 50K for even my Richmond Kickers is a lot. So imagine that going to an amateur club. Like, you split that up amongst the players or however they do it. That's a lot. That's a big chunk of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like we want to celebrate these teams. I'm trying to get back to Yogi's top five, so give me a second. But we want to celebrate these teams that have done, they buck the odds, right? I mean this is an amateur team. They're not supposed to be beating a professional side like Monterey Bay.
Yeah, no.
So that's number one. What's number two?
So number two, this is a good one. This is always my number one just because of the pure pettiness of it. So me and my co-host on Walking 90, we did a live show of the Chattanooga Derby along with Alex Ashton, who does Lead One Updater, and we did a live watch along of the Chattanooga Derby. It was a great game, but near the end of the game, we noticed there was a kid. I'm assuming it's a kid and his dad. If it's not, that's weird. But both of them ran onto the field. No one stopped them, and they planted a Chattanooga Red Wolves flag in the middle of the field.
Okay, so I'm gonna show and tell here. So Yogi's painting a picture, but I actually think, and Yogi, you can tell me what the order of events is here. I'm gonna play this first video, and you tell me if this is not what happened first.
So that happened afterwards. That's the second event.
This is the second event.
That's the second event.
Okay, I thought this was the first event. I could have sworn
that was second. So the first one was it was a guy and a little kid. They ran up to the field. No one stopped them because while that's going on in the background, you see the guy with his shirt off right here.
Yeah,
number 6 or what? It might be 16. When the last PK went in, they sprinted to the bench. That was the first event.
This is first. I could have sworn this must have been second because there's no players around, and the kid is just unchallenged.
No,
they're the players.
All the players are on the other side because they're almost getting in a fight with the Section 109, that supporters group, because they took off the jersey, waving the jersey in front of the players. It was pure pettiness. This is what we all wanted in American soccer, but just pure. It's generational hatred. It's pure hatred. It was amazing because you never thought you would see scenes like this. And it was probably once in a lifetime thing.
That whole broadcast and that whole game in general was just a joy to watch, to be honest. There was palpable, you could chew into the energy and atmosphere just through watching in YouTube. It looked like a great place. I felt like I was totally missing out. And there was quite a few moments just hearing the crowd kind of react to the events of the game. And one thing that kind of gave me goosebumps was the kind of the kind of the roar or the cheer of appreciation for what was going on when the players, after there was regulation, extra time, and then when the players came out to the center of the field for the penalty shootout to end the game, everyone in the crowd just acknowledged what they were seeing and gave an ovation to the event itself. It was a very special night. Yeah. And then on top of that, flag planting on a turf field. I mean, that's some American.
So Ohio State, Michigan levels kind of hatred, and I love it. All
right, so and I will mention, I think it was 12-5 in the building, which is a huge number.
In a 10,000 seat stadium. I mean, this is the other thing too. We can talk about the history between these two clubs. You can say that for a different show. I just think it's great that we have two clubs in the same city, 15 minutes apart, and there was 2,000 Chattanooga Red Wolves fans there, and they were loud and boisterous. And I think that's something we're really missing here in American soccer, where sometimes your best rival or your greatest rival is a day and a half trip away. These teams are close to each other, and that's amazing,
absolutely.
These guys are neighbors.
We did a little bit of the history on a different video. You can find it on the channel. I know lots of people have been talking about it. I got a newsletter that you can find on Ghost, Jason Davis Soccer Eagle, and I linked to Section 109, who did their own big long history on this on YouTube. So go look for that as well. What's number 3, Yogi?
All right, so number 3. So Jake Keegan, we call him Cardio Keegan in USL League One. He's been around since League One started up in 2019. He's played for a bunch of teams: Greenville, Madison, back to Greenville. I think there's another club in there somewhere, but pretty much he just signed maybe a couple of weeks ago to Portland Hotspur, right? And Portland are playing against Hartford Athletic. Now, it is in extra time, maybe a couple of minutes up. He scores the goal that gets them into extra time after being down a man in extra time up against the USL Championship team, right? This is also not at the field where Portland is going to play their home games is at, from what I've learned as well. Now, this is a cool thing that I found out. Hartford Athletic have never won a U.S. Open Cup game against a professional opponent. I believe that is right. So for them to lose their quote-unquote little brother in that area is absurd. And this is also a Portland team who's, their supporters group sent 200 people down to FC Naples, I think last Saturday, for their first official league game. So there's something special going on there in Portland. I don't know what Cardio Keegan is doing up there. You know, he might be just a super sub, but there's some special feelings going on up there.
All right, that's great. Portland Hearts of Pine making waves with their looks as well. Mm-hmm. They're dropping some jerseys people love.
Nice kid.
And that was a formative moment for a lot of those people there. You could hear the crowd. They were just like figuring out how they were going to do their support. They were, literally like the ground level stages of Portland support.
Yeah, I think like those things are. It's easy to joke on people when they first support a supporters group, like, oh, this is cringy and whatever. But I think those are like the special moments, like you said, like you're trying to figure out, like, all right, what chant works best? What chant doesn't work? How do we make a chant for a player? Things like that. I think that's all unique and cool at the same time. It's special to see what's going on up there.
All right, number 4. Lots of people might have thought coming into the round that Des Moines Menace was going to be the biggest story. It clearly did not happen that way, which I think is great for the tournament. But it was a story, Yogi.
It was a story. Sasha clashing. So this is someone put out there on Blue Sky. I think it was Jake who does 50 Plus Donner about how this Des Moines Menace team was the 2012 MLS All-Star team. So pretty much you had the 2012 MLS All-Star team against the League One champions of Union Omaha, and Union Omaha showed up and showed out. Now, this is also a unique thing that we were keeping track of, is that there were so many red cards during this round of the tournament.
Yeah.
Like we'll get to one of my favorite red cards coming up in number 5. But, so you had a bunch of red cards. I think you had 2 in this game alone. So Sasha
do we want to see Sasha? We want to see the moment? You want me to show it?
Let's see the moment.
I don't know about how let me know about the audio here, but let me see if I can get this up.
Bronick, it's their 3rd sub. Just their first window. They made the first 2 changes at halftime. Mark Bronick.
Oh, there's a card from the referee.
18-year-old debuted in Open
lots of John going on over there.
Scored the winning penalty in the shootout.
The little blue guys.
Lots of words of fun. Look, what? Here it is. Look. Oh, there's a moment. There it is.
Second yellow.
Now this is my thing. Because I always laugh at these moments. What did you have to say in that moment to get a double yellow back to back?
Here's what I want to know. This game is happening in Des Moines, Iowa, right, Yogi? This game is happening. I don't think this is happening at it's a high school stadium. I'm pretty sure, or no, Valley State or something like that. It's a low level college athletic stadium. Where does Sasha go when he gets red carded on the bench? Like, where's he headed to? Is he go sit in his car?
He's like, exactly. His car, maybe the bleachers on the other side.
You were thinking about that. We was like, all right, does he go to his car? Or maybe he just goes to, like, the locker room, but then it's like, oh, the locker room might be locked, so I just have to, like, stand on the outside of the fence and just imagine Sasha standing with his arm folded back. See me?
Man, yeah. Sasha getting red carded.
Yeah. But it's also, like, the most rec league red card ever. Because how many times have you seen that red card happen where the player goes off and he just jawing at the ref? And it's like you had to have said something outlandish to get a yellow card, double yellow, back to back in the span of 2 minutes. Like you had to say something just totally out of pocket.
Must have been. All right, number 5. Let's move on from Sasha and Des Moines.
So number 5, this is my favorite moment of the weekend personally, because Jimmy Villalobos, who plays for AV Alta. AV Alta is a new club in USL League One. My dog just walked in because he heard Jimmy Villalobos. They are not doing so hot in the league, but they're doing great in the US Open Cup. And in the 120th minute in extra time against LAFC, he scores the winner. Now, this is the thing. Jimmy is already on a yellow card. Jimmy then scores the winner. Jimmy then proceeds to take off his shirt and lose his mind.
Now, here's the thing about this, and I do got the video too, is obviously like you call it the winner, but we know it's the winner now. When you take off your shirt, you don't know if the ref might add a couple minutes and you might be in trouble putting your team down a man. So let's again, let me make sure it's not too loud, but here it is, that moment.
It's an in-swinging ball. Master Antonio, and it's put in! Villalobos!
And the thing is, he stops. That's the funny part. Like, he purposely did this.
That's incredible. Come on, look at the emotion of this.
But look at the thing. The players are trying to hide him and trying to make sure he gets his jersey back on, so the ref doesn't see it.
It's incredible. It's
He's
incredible.
got a camouflage. He's got green under green, which helps his case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's wearing the tracking, the bra, whatever we call that thing.
And this is the other thing, too. So since you say you're going out there to Cali, AV also might be a cool place to check out. I don't know California geographics, but AV Alta, their stadium, they made it quote-unquote soccer specific, so they have like their own standing supporter section out there. This is 3rd Division USL League One, by the way.
Yeah,
so it's really cool to see they took like, I think it was like an old baseball stadium and they repurposed it for soccer purposes, almost like what they did out there in Tampa. But they have their own.
I didn't know this. I mean, this is how quickly things are moving. A club like this is brand new. Mm-hmm. They're nowhere near where I'm gonna be. They're much more like
I don't know. California's always like, a big blob to me.
No, I know, but this is like the farm country of California. Like, this is not even like, this isn't LA, this is San Francisco. This is like out there, right? This is where. And I actually watched this morning because I knew Yogi was coming. We were going to talk about this moment. I went and watched. There's an Instagram video that AV Alta put up with Jimmy's story, and he talks about coming from a very poor, very Latino area in California, in that area of California, his hometown, which I can't remember exactly which town he is from. But this is like mostly farm workers. Like, this is the story of teams of players from this part of the world. They come from families of farm workers, and it's I think especially in this moment, it's cool that Jimmy Villalobos was able to do that. And yeah, look, I got no problem with taking your shirt off to celebrate. As long as you're not going to make your team suffer on the other side of it.
Yeah,
that's all.
It was his first yellow. Okay, cool, we get it. But like, I think also he was the captain, so his dad is like, all right, man. Like, if we go into the next round of the U.S. Open Cup without probably our captain,
that's bad. That's bad. All right, you got a couple audible mentions. We only got like a minute or so, Yogi. Tell us about the audible mentions.
So, audible mentions, we run through these real quick. Tormenta, South Georgia Tormenta down in Georgia, they avoided upset against Foro. Last minute winner there as well. I believe that game went into extra time as well.
Ignore my typos on this. Yogi's got the information. I got a line break problem there, but ignore that.
Yeah, so they end up winning that game 3-2 to avoid the upset there against Foro. Foro in the previous round beat another USL League One club in Texoma Soccer Club. And then last but not least, I know people don't really have a great fondness for MLS Next Pro teams, but the Crew 2 showed why they are probably the second best MLS Next Pro team outside of North Texas. Because they thoroughly put a beating on Lexington Soccer Club, who put a lot of money and has improved that team in the USL Championship, beating them 3-0. So that is.
Can I add a note to this as well? Yeah. Something that's a couple years that's already happened, but I guess maybe I knew this, but I was reminded. Apparently, in Columbus, they call this Crew 2 team the Capybaras, which I don't know why. Like they have a nickname. Somebody as a joke called them the capybaras. You know what that is? That's that little animal, that Brazilian thing.
Capybara.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, Yogi, thank you so much, man. Thank you for bringing us some Open Cup love. We appreciate it.
Bringing the top 5 moments. Tell the folks out there where they can find your stuff.
Oh yeah, you can follow me on River City 93 and Walking 90 and Can I Kick It FC, all on Blue Sky and on YouTube.
We also had somebody ask about, here it is, from Evan. What's your kit? You got to tell us about your kit.
Okay. So this is the women's team here in Richmond. This is year 2. The reason why I'm wearing this kit is because I am Jamaican, and we just signed Cameron Simmons, who is Jamaican international. She plays at Florida State University. She's also a Richmond native, and she signed on for the second year playing here for my hometown club, Richmond Ivy. We're going into year 2 now. And we are playing in the Brandy Chastain Cup, which is like a trial run of U.S. Soccer's trying to do a women's U.S. Open Cup. So we're in the trial run of that called the Brandy Chastain Cup. So we'll be
Oh, that's
playing that,
awesome.
and Cameron Simmons will be our star forward. Who also
very
plays with
fantastic.
Jamaica.
Lots of great stuff. Thank you for the moments. Thank you for sharing about the new cup, and then also thank you for being our first ever reoccurring guest to Morning Kick Around.
Yeah, look forward to it. Hope you guys have a great rest of the show.
Thank you
All right,
very
check
much.
out Yogi's stuff, and if you haven't done so, subscribe
Let me-
to Morning
hello?
Kick Around.
You're not here,
I'm a
Rob. I don't know what
I'm a
happened to you.
floating head, but
Yeah.
that doesn't have to sway you from hitting the subscribe button on a Morning Kick Around. Help us continue to grow the MK Ultras and make the soccer conversation we're trying to host here the richest it could be. Support us there. You can hit the thanks button and add some funds, or you could do the same thing at ko-fi.com/morningkickaround, where there's some bonus content there for those who contribute. And there's also a podcast version of the show now. I didn't mention at the top of the show, but on your favorite audio platform, search for Morning Kick Around. All right.
Yes.
Should we take a pause and head to segment 3 here? Let's do it.
Big question.
All right, the big question coming at you on today's episode of Morning Kick Around. There's been a whole lot of news. Both Major League Soccer and USL have, kind of planted some seeds for some big changes coming. It seems clear that the American powers that be recognize they are not capturing the American audience as much as the popularity of the sport of soccer is growing. So my question is, each entity kind of doing their own thing as far as MLS teasing the European calendar. USL has done that as well, but also the biggest news lately for them has been the eventual implementation of promotion relegation. So my question, the big question here to round out the show today, what is likely to capture more of the American attention, a European calendar or promotion and relegation?
Wow, Euro calendar is something that I think, as much as Pro Rel is the dream, I think people have always thought of the Euro calendar as this more attainable thing, right? You don't have to figure out how to move teams between leagues. You don't have to, you don't have to figure out if MLS is going to work with other competitions with their weird single entity thing. You don't have, there's a lot less, there's fewer moving parts. It's tougher. I mean, it's a tough lift, but it's fewer moving parts. I think though that Pro Rel is the bigger fundamental change. Like, you just switch the calendar and non-soccer fans will go, oh, okay. MLS used to be in the summer, now it's not. They may be surprised by it, but they're not going to think about it as a fundamentally different way of doing the sport. But Pro Rel is so unique to American sports that I think that just based on that, and we've seen it already, it's exploded beyond the normal soccer bubble and has been getting attention outside of that. It would certainly, I think it would be bigger. Now, I don't think that the European calendar for MLS would not be a significant change that could bring improvements to the league. As much as I worry about the weather situation, Rob, there absolutely is a very strong argument that MLS would benefit greatly from being lined up transfer window-wise with European teams it wants to do business with. It wants to buy players from, and it wants to sell players to.
Yeah, the promotion and relegation, that's like smack you in the face sort of change. A lot more people might kind of narrow their focus, like, oh, so if my little town team continues to win, we can, keep on moving up a ladder. I feel like that is more obvious change. But whereas the calendar thing, that's probably more of a long-term thing where certain aspects of the quality improve, maybe the baseline player quality just notches up a little bit because more players are free in the summer to make that transfer in more of a natural way, not in mid-season as it is now, and then just almost would deepen certain things to kind of align Major League Soccer with what is familiar to people that watch leagues across the world. But it's definitely not going to hit you over the head oh my God, game changer, they're not playing in the summer anymore. But I think, I mean, important. Also, which one of these two is harder to implement? I mean, goodness.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think that in terms of the legal elements of it and lots of and the money, like parachute payments and things like that, and obviously, look, we've already seen USL kind of go through this process of explaining, and it's mostly fallen to Paul McDonough, that it's going to take some work, and they don't know the format yet, and it's possible there won't be any relegation for like again. There's the devil is in the details when it comes to Pro Rel, and that's within USL, and obviously we're talking about, we're not even talking about the idea of all of America's professional leagues being linked up into one pyramid. Like that's almost impossible to imagine, again, because each one of those leagues its own business. They're not going to just choose to partner and move their clubs between businesses, and legally that gets all messy and those kind of things. So if you're talking about what's harder to implement, I think it's Pro Rel by a lot, because MLS can make decisions for MLS and just switch their calendar if they want. Now, there is obviously, it's not that there's no logistical things here, because now you have to work stadium leases out. You have to figure out, do you have to spend money on winterizing, not even winterizing, but like being able to make fields playable in the winter if you're trying to do that. And you obviously have the complication of the calendar, the schedule, Rob. How many games are you playing north of a certain latitude when it could be wintry weather, and you risk putting games on your schedule that would be canceled or have to be delayed or postponed, and nobody wants that. So it's not that either of them are easy. I just think Pro Rel is a lot more legally fraught. But somebody's saying here that the European calendar, this is Bernardo, European calendar is a bigger global change. Pro Rel is a bigger local change.
I like that framing. I like that framing. Yeah, that is nice. Like I was saying, the hit you over the head sort of an aspect of it, like the small town person or fan, like, because I can feel like here in Detroit locally, like if DCFC won that league, you'd feel like, well, now what? And then so if there is something beyond that, that would bring more people in. And then those small towns that we saw, celebrating with passion in the Open Cup, like there is a bigger carrot to dangle for those sort of, it's not a dead end supportership with the promotion and relegation. And I like that the way that Bernardo classified this. But your comment earlier about the winterization of stadiums, if there's a calendar change, a part of this Pro Rel stuff is the Pro League standards and how there's lots of requirements for sizes and whatnot. Do you think a practical PLS, if they do go to the Euro calendar, is provisions like a Pro League standard is maybe a covered stand or a warm, like a underheated field or something like that? I mean, if they're putting big expectations already with the size of these stadia, but
Sure.
Maybe acknowledging the difficulties of the conditions could be baked into that too, perhaps?
Well, I don't know, maybe. I don't think PLS can dictate calendar. Like, I don't think U.S. soccer is in a position.
No, but
to say,
acknowledging the calendar in the Pro League standard. So if we're going European and the heart of our season is in Antarctica conditions, you should accommodate the stadium for that.
I don't know. No, I don't think that that's something U.S. soccer can get involved in. That's up to the league. If the league chooses to play on a European style calendar, then the league has to figure out how to schedule its season so it doesn't have a bunch of games impacted by wintry weather and freezing temperatures. And if it does decide to play games in places that could be impacted by that stuff, and even in southern climates, you can end up playing in 30-degree weather or whatever, or even colder, depending on the big weather events that we seem to get all the time now. So I guess the league then would have to determine, do we have to dictate to clubs that you have to have underfield heating, which I believe Sporting does. I don't know who else might have it. Or you have to have other accommodations. And certainly, again, ways to protect fans is part of that, I would guess. I mean, again, this is why I think, even Don Garber has been hesitant to commit to that idea as it's been floated and as we've seen the reports from Paul Norio and people like that. It's like, is this something we can do without losing a big portion of our fan base? Like, are people ready? So this is a comment from the other SM. As an MLS season ticket holder, the crowd sizes are significantly larger over the summer. The fan base won't support soccer in freezing temperatures. Right? We're not conditioned to go watch soccer in freezing temperatures. We are conditioned to watch football in December in Green Bay, and people will willingly do that. So I don't. Is that a cultural shift you can make? Can you retrain your fan base, or are you saying to a certain portion of your fan base, we're not for you anymore? Are you sending that message? And those summer crowds, a lot of those summer crowds are kids, right? Major League Soccer has moved its marketing away from families because that was the original approach, right?
Yeah.
Bring your kids out to the soccer match. You might get a free thunder stick or whatever it is. And, it's going to cost you, back in the day in MLS, it cost you, what, $15 a ticket or whatever it was. And while the league has moved its marketing away from that, and now it's about intense support and passionate supporters and showing flares in the stands that are actually banned, which makes people upset and all those things, it doesn't mean that those families aren't going out in the summer and aren't a major part of MLS revenue. Because what we talked about with the Apple TV deal and putting all of the games in a 7:30 local window, right? The owners want to make sure that they have their game day revenue, while everybody else is like, but this isn't great for television. But they're holding on to that because they don't see a replacement for it. And I don't know, with all the talk about the Apple TV deal not going all that great and the paywall not being good for the league's growth, is there a future in which MLS has to reckon with the money it gets from its television contract, and does that dictate what it decides to do with its calendar, Robert?
Exciting challenges ahead. We'll see how all those questions are answered over time. I'm impatient. I want all these things to happen, but we're definitely on the preliminary stages of big changes coming to American soccer. Thank you to everyone who's tuned into today's episode of Morning Kick Around. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit the thanks button and perhaps add some couple dollarooskies to the Morning Kick Around coffers. And there's subscriptions and services that we have to pay for. So any sort of contribution to keep add some sustainability to the program. And then eventually some growth and expansion of the program. Thanks to anyone who's done so already. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Follow us along on social media at mkickaround, X, Instagram, Blue Sky. And you can also support and get bonus content at coffee.com/morningkickaround. And before we go today, should acknowledge this weekend, Sunday, it's the MK Derby. Liverpool traveling to Fulham. Those are our teams that we support. We clash against each other. They were 2-2 last time they met in December, which was a kind of a mini wobble for Liverpool as they march toward their 20th First Division title. What do you think of the game? You're not willing to bet. I was willing to put on a silly hat or something if Fulham won. But what do you think will happen if you're not willing to put any of your dinero on the line?
I think Liverpool's going to win the soccer game. Is what I think is going to happen. And
it's the first versus ninth clash.
Look, Fulham is a club that has probably overachieved a little bit this season, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad that Fulham has put themselves even for a moment in a conversation about making Europe, right? And if they end up finishing ninth, no Fulham fan is going to be upset about that. It's only relative to where we've been. Like, oh, we're in ninth. We're only a couple points back of clubs like Newcastle and City. If only just one or two more results went our way, what could have been? And
they gave away some leads. They gave away some leads this year.
Yeah, they've given us away some leads. They obviously just lost to Arsenal after the disappointment in the FA Cup, which, to lay an egg at home against Crystal Palace hurts worse than losing to Arsenal or losing to Liverpool. And thank you, fixture makers, for putting Arsenal and Liverpool back-to-back for my Fulham Football Club. Appreciate that.
Last question. Is Anthony Robinson wearing red next year?
Is he wearing red? If that means Liverpool, I think it's very likely. I think it's very likely. I don't know what the number is. He's not a young player, so he's not an investment property. He is now, you're buying him because you think he can help you win a title next year, is what that is. It's interesting.
We shall see what happens. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back on Monday morning, and until then, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.